Hello and welcome everyone to the May 28th edition of the bi-weekly American edition of the Contributor Experience meeting of the Kubernetes project. Please be advised that this meeting is under the code of conduct of the Kubernetes project. Which in short means be excellent to your fellow attendees and your fellow speakers. All right, let's jump in with awards. Yes, so we can do awards again in North America. I also talked, or it was also stated by the CNCF that basically all projects who are graduated have the ability to give awards. So there will be a reach out to the other projects as well. However, for the Kubernetes project, we should organize our awards and also basically reserve a time slot then for Maintainer Summit for handing out awards.
So one of the things that we raised last year that I think we need to raise again is the possibility of moving the awards to Europe, given the number of people who don't want to visit the United States right now. That would mean delaying them, though. Like, I mean, we don't actually hand out the awards in person.
Yeah.
But it's feeling increasingly weird to declare the awards at the US KubeCon when that's not the one that the largest number of contributors attend.
I mean, I have no strong feelings about this.
Okay.
Because
I mean, we could opinion poll it.
Yeah, because the awards, as you said, are getting sent anyway. I mean,
what about opinion polling it among the SIG leads and see what people think?
Yeah, this would be an option. We can just basically write a poll to the leads mailing list and say and see what comes back.
Yeah.
I can organize this.
So in that case, like, do we officially say like awards 2025 never happened? We'll directly go to 2026?
Yeah, that
Obviously,
would be what we would be doing, right? I'd hoped actually, we talked about doing a supplementary awards in London, partly out of this discussion, which would have made it easier to bridge, but SIG leads were just not prepared. None of the SIG leads who did not participate in Salt Lake City were prepared to come up with any names for London either.
Yeah, nobody wanted to, and basically said that they we reached out, there was a reach out to them, and everyone said like, no, they don't want to do this.
Yeah. So, and they may say, the poll from the SIG leads may say, it doesn't really matter which, what the location of the KubeCon is. Let's keep it at the same time of year. In which case, we'll keep it at the same time of year.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, theoretically, we could also say we do awards online.
Yeah.
And don't do any session about it.
That would honestly be tempting because it's been years since the majority of the award recipients were present at a contributor summit, at the same contributor summit, right? Like the first few times we did this, we made an effort to get the awardees present, but that's also because we were only giving out like 11 awards total. Now that we're giving out like 40 or whatever it is, it's impossible, and plus people's travel is much more restricted. So I could actually see a really strong argument for doing a purely online thing, and then it wouldn't be this sort of weird. It would also avoid some of the logistical issues of having it at Maintainer Summit when it's specifically the Kubernetes awards.
Yeah. I mean, this could be basically a third option in the pool.
Mhm.
Keep it in keep it at UK. UK. Keep it in the US. Keep it move it to Europe, or do it online.
Okay, I'll go ahead and create a poll.
Yeah.
Form.
Okay.
The
I think the
and
other weaker opinion that we need to put on the poll is that either is fine by people.
yeah. Oh, I don't care. Yes, we can definitely put an I don't care option in there.
I mean, yeah, I don't care sounded a little on the negative side, so I was thinking like either
Okay.
is
Okay.
fine.
Right. Yeah.
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 All options are fine for me. I have no strong feelings as long as we have awards. Maybe that's also a good thing. Yeah, but yeah, let's do this. So Josh, you will create the form, and then I will send it out to the mailing list. Is this all right with everyone?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, shall we directly move into election? Because
Sure.
I don't have any other major topic.
Okay, it's time to get that rolling. First step is selecting a set of election officers, which starts with polling last year's election officers, seeing, out of the people who have not already done it for 2 years, seeing who wants to repeat, and then looking for new people to fill in. Yeah, and that's what happened at this stage, because we need the election officers before we do anything else. One thing I want to be aware of is one thing I would like to do this time. So one thing I observed with last election is that the election results are largely dependent on name recognition, which is not necessarily selecting for the people who are going to make the best use of their time on the steering committee. And it was just because there were some dramatic differences where some people who had put in their profiles very concrete plans for what they wanted to do in the steering committee ranked very low, whereas other people who said, oh, I've contributed to Kubernetes since forever, and that was their entire statement, actually ranked very high. So one of the things that we've talked about doing forever, among election officers, was to actually do, say, some video interviews or panels among the candidates, so that more of our projects can get to know the candidates. It might also drum up some voter interest, given that voting has been declining even as a percentage. So I'm thinking that's something I'll take on as lead of the election sub-project with whoever's willing to help. The one thing that might complicate that is if I decide to run for steering committee myself, then I shouldn't be running the video interviews. And I haven't decided one way or the other in that yet.
I mean, from what I can say from comms is that comms also wanted to, or said that there were interest from a lot of people to be involved in this, for especially highlighting the candidates and basically showing what writing also a blog post that goes onto the Kubernetes dev website with profiles of the speakers, so that I know that we forbid campaigning, but I mean, we can still do the campaigning for the candidates, like not advising
Right.
for
Well,
advertising for one specific, but for all of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just very different if it's in organized project activity versus people campaigning on their own, right?
Yeah.
What we're trying to avoid is the thing we've seen in some other projects where honestly this becomes entirely a matter of companies because that's very divisive.
I mean, we still have the same problem, right? So we still have the problem that people from their own company tend to vote for people of their own company.
Yeah, but it's not. I'm on a recorded call. I'm not going to name the project this is true of, but there is one very large project in our own space where people literally only voted on people for their own project and did not rank any candidate who didn't work for their employer.
Yeah.
We don't see that in Kubernetes. In Kubernetes, people might be ranking their coworkers towards the top, but they are also ranking the other candidates. They have opinions about people other than just their coworkers. So, and I'd like to keep things that way. Yeah.
But that doesn't matter, right? In a ranked voting system, even like there would be employer bias all the time. People like employers who contribute more would always have more voters, and I mean that's a flaw of the system. So we really can't do anything about it as well. We just can acknowledge that it's a flaw and move on.
Yeah. Well, and we have the advantage of having diverse employers, and honestly, our contributors also have other reasons to prefer certain candidates, right? They were on the release team, and one of the candidates also is, all kinds of other reasons to prefer specific candidates. And actually, honestly, if you look at who gets elected, it tends to be people who contribute in areas that involve touching a lot of areas of the project, right? So people out of the release team and SIG release and SIG ContribEx, and architecture, although nobody's run from that group for a long time. I have some natural advantages in terms of the breadth of their contacts within the project. And mostly with some of the video interviews, I want to counteract that some because I want to give people a chance. It's obvious that people are not reading the candidate profiles as a rule, right? I mean, obviously some people are, but most people are not. And this is no surprise for anybody who's participated in a regular government election, right? People also don't read the stuff. And I think we might have more luck. So I'm going to put that on the comms meeting for this Friday.
Yes.
Because that'll be good. And particularly if somebody is really excited about running with this, then that would give me the option of dropping out if I decide to run for steering. I really want to do this, but also there are some things that I would want to do if I was on the steering committee, and I haven't decided what direction I'm headed. So,
George, just a quick clarification question. This is going to be something like a meet the candidate, right? Instead of having multiple people together. So I believe it would be one-on-one interviews with.
Okay. I don't have a decision yet. This is the sort of thing where collaborating with a bunch of other people is helpful, right? Because there would be advantages to having a few panels, but there would also be advantages in having a series of one-on-one ones. And there's difficult logistics on either side.
Yeah, I'm just wary of the thing that some people might be really good in the craft that they do and can manage sharing responsibilities well, but might not be that good in live communications due to several factors. It can be due to where they're from or due to, in general, just anything. So just to remove that bias, like if you put two people where one person is clearly vocal and the other person is not, but maybe they are good in actually running activities which steering does. So they might get on a negative note for the people who would be voting. So just wanted to remove that bias or remove that thing which naturally can happen, but
Yeah.
should not determine the effect of voting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, part of that is also running a good panel if we do. I mean, it would have to be several panels, right? Because time zones. We can't have one panel with all candidates. Even if we could find a hole in everybody's schedule, it would be 4 in the morning for someone. But either way, because I think we want to throw this out. We'll have some of the Commons volunteers. I'll ask the other people who've been involved with the election sub project in the past, and we'll come up with something. Because like one of the arguments also is video versus articles on the blog, on the contributor blog, right? Do we prefer one or the other? Do we want both?
Maybe if we go for only audio, this would also be if we just do like a podcast format or something like this, so that people can listen to it, right? So that they can just sit there and listen.
I have always liked how the Kubernetes podcast does the release team lead interviews and other project maintainer interviews, where there is well-defined research and a good template of questions, which are asked to everyone. That gives a good overview.
I mean, we can ask Kathleen if she wants to help with this. Obviously, as a host.
Yep.
Yeah. And assuming that she's not running for steering, that's always one of our problems for this, right? Is that the people who are the best candidates to help run the election are also the most likely people to be running in the election. Which actually makes our most reliable people the people who are terming out of steering committee, because those people can't run again. But yeah, I just put something on the agenda for this week's comms meeting, because I think we can recruit some comms people, particularly, if I'm looking for people who are enthusiastic about video. It's a good place to find them.
George, there's only one person terming out this time around.
Oh yeah, who?
Stephen.
Okay.
All others are eligible to rerun.
Okay. Okay. And then in the meantime, the other thing to do is to follow up with the election officers, which I'll go ahead and do, and find out who we're retaining for election officers, and then from the combined election subcommittee pool, get some suggestions on who would be election officers for next time, so that we can offer that to y'all as ContribEx leads, and then send a potential slate to steering.
Yeah.
So okay.
All right. Then I will be there on the meeting on Friday, so let's discuss this. Let's discuss this there. Beside this, any other pressing or urgent topic that we have?
Mario, quick one. You might know the answer to this. Did we finalize the dates on registrations opening for Maintainer Summit? I would need to do the audit before that.
Let me look. I still have not yet a register date for Maintainer Summit.
Would it be end of June-ish, ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, if you say that you need until end of June, I can potentially have them push it until end of June.
Okay. So the thing is, if I generate the list this Friday, we need to give 4 weeks as consensus period, or people to put in their exception requests, which would essentially lead to end of June, and then we can basically remove people. So you would have a concrete list by end of June, you as in Safe to do the registration process.
Speaking of which, Nabarun, I just wanted to confirm with you that we're not having any specific Kubernetes contributor activities for KubeCon India.
No. So what Bob confirmed with us that there will be some sort of a lunch or a half day kind of a side event, but not like a separate thing. It will just be like a small social, not even like a full-fledged thing.
Okay. I mean, the way we get these things is that we actually say we want to do X and we ask for them rather than asking CNCF what they're providing.
Oh no, we did that.
Okay.
We did ask for Material Summit to happen. Priyanka and I tried to push some things, and we have been in touch with like Mario to also like be our messenger to see like if some things can happen. But it decided even before we asked, so we could not do anything. So what I have been doing on my side is like whoever told me and is coming up to me and saying that, hey, we had a really great event last year. Why is it not happening this year? I am redirecting everyone to go and like fill the survey or send an email to events.
Okay.
Like let them know that this is something that you really liked and you want it back. That can happen. And Bob gave me that advice basically that if we really like something, it should be survey driven. It should be like it should be backed by real examples and rather than us collecting data and like going to CNCF. That's the consensus.
I think that's good. I mean, at this point, we're not doing anything if it wasn't already planned. And part of the reason I wanted to confirm with you is that I need to buy my plane tickets. Because one of the possibilities, rather than a full maintainer summit for India, would also be doing something more informal like we did in Shanghai, where it's just sort of one room, one day. They're sort of in between options because it's just that KubeCon, we have a bunch of contributors who can go to KubeCon India who can't go to any other KubeCon, and I would really love to have something for them. So,
and that exactly was the reason. That exactly was one of the reasons that people really loved socializing in Maintainer Summit India. I'll try to get it back next year if it happens again in India. So,
I mean, to also give context, as far as I was informed, is that basically the decision or a lot of this decision level is baked by those surveys because they then go up towards Linux Foundation, and Linux Foundation is also like what is a thing that is worth budgeting and stuff like this. So it's not so much on even on CNCF level.
That's understandable.
But they are still
I mean, literally, that is the sort of thing that we used to bring up in the general board when they did this before.
I mean, the argument is also, and this argument I can understand is that KubeCon US and KubeCon Europe has X thousand people attending, and KubeCon India is only this size. So the spend for KubeCon India and side of events is obviously lower because the revenue that comes in from KubeCon India is lower, right? But I agree. But I think that the most important thing is the survey and the reports, because this is what directly will be reported in the board meetings. That are the only numbers that you can basically have. It's not, feelings are not numbers, right? And it's still in the end a number-driven game. And regarding the social for the maintainer summit in the US and in general, I'm still discussing it with CNCF folks and then trying to find sponsors, especially for a social event, because everyone said, and also the chair said that the missing of the social event for the maintainer summit was not a good thing. I mean, the reception was just not.
Mhm.
It's not what everyone was expecting.
Mhm.
In London?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the battles they're having is that of CNCF events is going back to the same organizations, asking them to sponsor more and more things. And those organizations' budgets have not expanded. I mean, I'll say as somebody who works at a large vendor, the vendor's attitude was generally that, hey, for things like the contributor summit, et cetera, this is part of what we're paying for with our KubeCon sponsorship. And the idea that we would need to pay separately for this when it should be included was not very attractive. This is a conversation I've had with CNCF events before, and they wanted to try it anyway. And I'm not surprised that it has not been a wild success.
I mean, on the other side, it's it moved to an extra day, right? So that's and an extra day costs extra money. And when we don't move it to an extra day, it's co-located events, and people who would like to attend a maintainer summit or contributor summit are then pulled into the other events.
I know it's a problem. One, the other thing is that by making it a maintainer summit, it greatly increased the number of event staff that are required for it as well, which upped the staffing cost. So I know a bunch of the sort of money here. It's just that this was always a risk because we've been talking about how to handle, I talked with Dan Kahn about how to handle sponsorship and Kubernetes Contributor Summit back when. And one of the reasons why they didn't put the Contributor Summit out for sponsorship years ago was that I just, I said, Dan, please actually poll likely sponsors and see how many of them are willing to write an extra check for the Contributor Summit before you do this. And he did, and the answer was that they weren't. Which is one of the reasons why it didn't happen back in 2019. But in the case of, like, say, India, potentially China, potentially Japan, if they're going to be having more than 2 KubeCons a year, for these other KubeCons, we also have the opportunity of bringing down the cost, right? What about having it on the Colo day, or what about having it in a cheaper venue? What about having a much more limited event? Because like when we did it for Shanghai, the first year it was 1 room, and the second year it was 2 rooms, and it was entirely staffed by volunteers. And as a result, now mind you, they also had the advantage that the venue that they were seeking was willing to give them extra rooms ahead of KubeCon at a nominal cost, right? And I don't know what the case is with any of the new venues, right? It's going to vary a lot by venue. Because like one of the problems for what was North America before Salt Lake? Where were we 2 years ago? Chicago. In Chicago wanted them to rent the entire convention center for an extra day in order to give them 2 rooms. And so that was just out. So it's always going to vary by the venue. But also one of the other things about these more limited events is it could compete with the colos, right? There are a lot fewer colos for, say, KubeCon India. And so the competition is not as much of a problem. I think we can actually like approach them and say, hey, what about doing much more limited events where the cost is very limited, right? And thus they don't have to come up with strong justifications for the LF General Board and why to spend money for this. If the amount of money is less than they're spending on, T-shirts for the conference.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think that we will solve this in this meeting and this year.
No.
I think the best thing that we can do is raise the topic with CNCF and also say, like, I mean, Nabarun, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year in India it was also most of the thing was unconferencing, and the attendee number was, I don't know how many people have been there.
So we had good number of attendees if you extrapolate the conference size. So we had like around 64 attendees,
Yeah,
of which like 60 showed up. That's a great attendance ratio.
yeah,
We had like almost like greater than 95%. And we just had 2 unconferences and around like 4 or 5 scheduled sessions. Where our learning from that event was like the marketing was not done well of the CFPs going out. Many people came to the event and then they were like, oh, we did not even know that this was a CFP was open for proposals. We thought like this is coming from some other place, like the main track, or you people are selecting it. So
yeah.
that was one pitfall that we saw about marketing, and that was also the first time we had to figure out like who does what in terms of what we are supposed to do, as in the program chairs, what ContribEx can help with, what CNCF is supposed to do, what CNCF projection is going to do, what CNCF events is going to do. So there was a lot of confusion. But in terms of like attendance and people being active during the event, that was great actually.
Yeah.
I mean, comms is a general problem because in Kubernetes itself, we don't have so much problems with comms, right? So we have the comms team, we have the different channels where we can reach people. But when I did promotion for Maintainer Summit and also basically getting people to register, it's when you look throughout the projects, it's nearly impossible to have a good communication towards all across the different projects. What I in the end did was I joined every Slack channel, every Discord channel or Discord server or Slack server of each of the incubating and graduating projects to inform them, hey, there's a maintainer summit, you can register here, and so on and so forth, because a lot of projects just don't have the comms infrastructure Kubernetes has.
Yeah. Well, but I
Yep,
mean,
yep,
for
yep.
that reason, Navarun?
Yeah. So what I was saying was like I agree with it. So we have like really great structured comms programs. We literally have a lot of followers or connections on our socials. What we were hoping back then was that there would be like more periodic comms at a higher level, because the concept of the summit went above the Kubernetes project, right? It's more on like a CNCF layer. So
Yeah.
that was what we expected. So that was basically our learning. But yeah, Josh, you were saying something.
Yeah, well, that's why when I'm talking about when we're, when I'm talking about pushing for contributor activities at the other KubeCons, I'm talking about specifically pushing for contributor activities run by and centered around the Kubernetes project. I think it would be a good idea to make those open to maintainers from other projects, because there's no reason to exclude those folks, because they're the kind of folks we would give exceptions to anyway. But within the Kubernetes project, we have the people to run an event. Other projects, as a rule, don't. They don't even have people to help run an event. And so I think we can have like as we did in the past with the contributor summit, and as we did on a smaller scale in China, we can have a good contributor event run by Kubernetes that might include some stuff from elsewhere in the CNCF. But if we want to turn it into a maintainer summit, then it becomes a CNCF event staff thing, and then it becomes unmanageable.
Um, I think I mean, I have been out of the Contributor Summit organization for some time. The last time I was involved was way back during the pandemic, and before that, like San Diego and a couple of them later. But what I feel is like people are also burnt out, and it's the same people who are organizing Contributor Summit like over and over and over and again. And that, at least I felt that even though we see like people are staffing, but it is increasingly getting difficult
Yeah.
for like ContribEx to solely take the burden of like doing the Contributor Summit, and hence I feel like it was also getting unsustainable
Right.
on our part.
Well, that's why you look at scale, right? Because for Shanghai was run completely with 4 volunteers. You know, and so I'm looking at something of that scale. Because again, if you have 1 or 2 rooms, a largely unconference schedule, then you don't need the kind of staff that we had for Kubernetes Contributor Summit with 28 sessions, etc.
Mhm.
I mean, I get this. The problem that I see is that it is still more effort for ContribEx to run stuff like this, especially. I mean, I guess in India, it will be easier to do it. But for example, I'm not sure about Japan. How they will. I mean, they have this small active community. To get it, and that's basically also the main reason why I'm glad that we have something like Maintainer Summit, because we have CNCF staff who takes a lot of things off our shoulders. And I mean, I think the CNCF already understood, and also Chris said this to me at Maintainer Summit in London, that they really want to do something for the maintainers in India and in Japan, and they are aware of this. I think the problem this year is mainly timeline, because
well, we're talking about
everything
next year for everything at this point, right?
exactly. Basically, I think the focus should be for next year, and what we could do is, or what we should do is like offering CNCF help through the various channels, that if they want to organize such a thing, what could the community offer? How could the community help? But I think what we also should try to understand is that, especially because those events are now run by the events team, that they have a way of running events, and they are aware that that maintainer summits or contributor summits are different, or they are now aware that they are different from the normal events and how they normally run events. But they are also aware that they also say that if they want to run, and let's face it, it's them 1, 2, 3, 4 maintainer summits in which size or whatever across the year, plus the co-located events for all of this. They need to put the maintainer summits or the main contributor summits into a manageable framework, let's put it this way, that they can reproduce easily across the different environments. And I think that that's something that we also should keep in mind from our side. I mean, I never heard from any CNCF staff that they are not happy with any input we gave them from any side. But yeah, I think this year is a little bit bumpy, and it will change next year when there's like an experience on how much effort is everything.
The Nabarun?
Yeah, just wanted to say that I am very pro for a maintainer summit in India, by the way, because it captures a lot of people. A contributor summit in India would not run that successfully
Yeah.
because even though counts say that we have a lot of contributors from India, but most of them are not active. So what I've always told Bob, like even before this maintainer summit was on the horizon, I had told like if there was an event like official CNCF event ever in India, which happened like as like Cube Day in 2023 and KubeCon India is 2024, I really want something which involves like all CNCF projects and not just Kubernetes, because then we get the breadth of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that's why I prefer, at least for like smaller KubeCons or very focused geos, where if you see like China, India, and Japan, not many people from outside those geographies are going to be at those events. I think I
Mm-hmm.
know only a handful of people who are going to be in India who are not in the greater like Asia region. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes more sense to get an event which covers like as many as people as they could. Japan, I don't know the demographics that much, but for China also, what I heard is it's mostly people who are from that broader region, unless it's in Hong Kong where people don't need to like in a way go to China and get like they don't need to get a China visa, they can get a Hong Kong SAR visa to get into Hong Kong. That's what I've heard from people.
Yeah, I think let's take this with us. Tell people to fill out a survey, ask
Mm-hmm.
for maintainer summits, and basically offer CNCF help for planning. This is something that I will take with me for next year for India and for Japan, because I think that we also there was an agreement that the maintainer summit chairs for US and EU will also be probably be picked at some point in summer because so or not because but so that they can start planning EU way more early than we did last year, because the planning phase for EU basically was KubeCon US was done and then we started planning Europe. And I think that you need more time because the time span between US and Europe is really short. All right. Any other topic that we need to discuss?
Not from me. This was a long conversation.
Then I would end the meeting and wish you a nice week. Let me stop the recording.